unveiling a project that I've been working on for some time now. It is the Raspberry-Pi3 Pigrrl 2 project, and it is found on Adafruit's website, adafruit.com. They have a parts list for everything, but yeah, so I'll just show you what I've done here. This is the end result, right here. So this is a case that was 3D printed. I work in a makerspace at the library. I was able to 3D print the case. The buttons are connected to tactile switches, so they have a neat little click to them. Feels very retro, and you get that smooth response on all the buttons. There's back shoulder buttons as well for other games that need those. You can see that the 3D print was able to actually create threads for the screws, or the Raspberry Pi actually screws into the case on there. So you have your screen on the front, and on the back of this, of course, the Raspberry Pi is going to be hooked into that. So if you look right here, this is where the Pi is. There's the Ethernet and USB ports for those. And then down here is where you have most of your other controls, like obviously underneath here, these buttons here, all under here is going to be the PCB that controls all the button controls, and all of those are soldered on individually, which is connected to a 2x20 GPIO header box, which is routed with a GPIO cable to the screen, so then you can have control of the buttons and it'll appear on the screen. Pretty simple. Just kidding. So the speaker actually has a little area for the sound comes out there. Just a small little amplifier connected to it that's connected to the actual PowerBoost, which you'll see the cord for it there. If you note, there's a little gap right here, slightly in the actual case, and that's just because the 3D printer warped the edge of the case. I'm not sure if you can tell or not, but you see how it's kind of curved on that other side there, and that warping caused it to be kind of out of alignment, but the rest of the case fits fine. It's just that one edge, and there's a screw holding it in place, so it's not going to just pop off. However, I wouldn't drop it because I'm not sure how sturdy it is or anything. But on the side there, we have the SD card for the Raspberry Pi, so I can at any point in time take this out and load more games onto it. Right now I'm just running the RetroPie gaming system, which is an operating system for Raspberry Pi that has several different stock emulators that you can download. PlayStation, I'll show you in a second, but here's the toggle switch here on the side, which is just a 3-pin switch, clipped off 2 of them. One's power, one's off. Yeah, so the actual PowerBoost is what regulates the voltage to the Pi, and that's going to be connected to a lithium we'll just call it a Lipo battery. That's all I know it's called. But anyway, it's a 3.7 volt, 2500 milliamp hour battery that's inside of here. It's right underneath the screen, between the Pi and the screens, where it's housed, because that's really the only area it fits in this case. Because this case is already big enough. You can tell it really does look like a retro Game Boy with the way obviously it's 4 buttons. So, but still, I really like the look and the feel of it. And obviously you can get much higher performance. It's a 1 gigahertz processor. It has its own RAM and everything like that. So we'll just go ahead and power it on. So you can see the screen light up there. I'll just show the actual. Just give it a second. Sometimes it takes a minute to boot up after I've powered it off. But there is a backlight on right now. You can't see that, but it is on. It's just, and once it's running, it runs very well. Battery might just be low. Thought I charged. Screen. Okay, it's on now. It's really the camera doesn't really capture it too well, but we have a list here that shows all the emulators. Let's see if I can get it close enough to where the camera can see it, if it'll focus in. So there's a PlayStation. We have the RetroPie, just config and stuff. SNES. There's an arcade for Pac-Man and stuff like that. The original Game Boy, which I have Pokemon in there now. Game Boy Advance. I can't even read that on here. It's so light. Nintendo 64. Yeah, and there's a couple other emulators you can get on there. The two that I'm most interested in are the SNES and the PlayStation. Obviously, you got most of your platform games on there. Any kind of adventure games runs pretty well. Let's see. Let's just load in Crash Bandicoot so I can show that one. The sound on here is actually pretty nice. I only have it on 50%, but once it loads in, there's a slight buzzing of the speaker. And I've looked this up, and apparently that's a common issue that these do have, just the Raspberry Pi 3s in general. And I think it has to do with the proximity of the battery with where the speaker plugs in on the back of the Raspberry Pi board. So it's hard to show it upside down. I can get a different angle here. Perhaps that would be better. Screen, I believe, is about 3 inches with a 2.8-inch display. And you can see it runs really well. There's no lag or frame drops or anything like that. The actual battery duration, I'm not sure. I haven't really tested it too much. I think it differs based on how much you're doing. Obviously, a game like this is going to generate a little more battery than the general operation of a Raspberry Pi. There are different settings that you can set for the overclock. The Raspberry Pi 2 actually has an overclock setting in the Raspberry config file, but this one, however, you have to actually set in. You have to go into either in shell or some kind of command line editor to where you can change the values of the SRAM and the GPU and the ARM clock frequencies. Right now, I have my ARM set to 1300, which I believe is the default value, so I haven't changed that. The GPU is set to 500. The core frequency, I'm an idiot. The core frequency is set to 500 as well. Sorry for the side view. I just really don't have a good way to set up this camera. I should have done this ahead of time. Yeah, this is a neat little project. You know, area where I work has soldering stations and all kinds of 3D printers, and availability to most of this equipment that I used to build this. I had to buy most of the materials, however, obviously the screen, the Raspberry Pi 3 I had already. All the tactile switches are pretty cheap on the Adafruit. I'll put the link in the description on the project overview, that I followed. Yeah, that's how you die in Crash Bandicoot, by the way. The tactile switches are pretty loud, though. It doesn't really bother me. I think it's kind of neat. Yeah, I don't really. Anyway, just kind of showing. And what's actually neat, I have all the buttons configured for PlayStation right now. I don't have it set up for 64, else I would show you some games on there. But if I hold select, it actually speeds up the game. So this would be good for speedruns if you're really good at the game. But I'm going to slow it back down. Good little project if you're looking for something to do. If you enjoy soldering and putting things together and following project descriptions, it's a very neat project. I'm holding the camera in my house right now. That's why I'm not talking. I really am not very good at the game right now. I'm not really focused on the gameplay. I'm just trying to show you the overview of the project. So it's just kind of a little neat thing. So yeah, I'll put a link to the Adafruit project overview. Estimated cost, which is something really important to consider when you're making this project. A lot of these things I already had, so it wasn't bad for me. It is a personal investment, and I really wouldn't suggest trying to sell it or anything like that. I don't think you'd really get too much profit out of it because it is, you know, it's an older idea, I guess, with the retro gaming system. But kind of a new spin with the Raspberry-Pi3. You get more power than the two. You can, you know, you have higher clock frequencies on your GPU, which allows for, you know, smooth gameplay of PlayStation 1 games and even some N64 games. I don't have the button configuration set up for those, but yeah. I'm just going to run across here. Get to the end. So I'll show you some. I'll show you another game on here while we're doing this. Might as well. Trying to get my camera set up here. I don't really care to save or anything like that. If you hold start and select, it'll just restart the system or quit out of the game. Let's go to. Let's do the SNES. Here's a favorite, Super Mario World. Yeah, so all these ROMs, if you go to EMU Paradise, I believe that's the website, where I downloaded most of these ROMs, and there's tons of ROMs on there that this will run. And most emulators have only one ROM type, so you don't really have to worry about searching for different files unless you're doing arcade-style games like Pac-Man or Gauntlet. I've had some trouble with those. Yeah, that little high-pitched squeal's kind of annoying, I know. I didn't want to go to Yoshi's house, believe it or not. So you can really see how good I am at platform games. I really just wanted to show the system itself and to show you how smooth it ran. There, you can get the little cool death effect. Yeah, there you go. That's nice to see. We'll go ahead and quit out of that one. So I'll put links in the description of everything and my settings for my different processors and stuff like that. So a really cool little neat system. I would open it up and show you, but it is kind of in there the way it needs to be, and I've opened it up a few times and I really don't have to resolder any connections, so I'm just going to leave it like that and just show you the outside. Shoulder buttons work fine. You can configure all the buttons to however you want. Yeah, so that is the, get this around here, Raspberry-Pi3 Pigrrl 2 project. And yeah, give yourself some time to do it. It can be done on the weekend if you have the spare time and all the parts to do it. I would suggest getting all the parts at once. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. Don't just buy one part at a time. It's better to get them all at once. You save on shipping that way, and you can get most of them either from Adafruit. Spark Electronics has a lot of good little cheap products on there. You can use obviously Amazon if you're a Prime member. That can save you some money too on the screen if they're out of stock. The screws themselves, they're on the project overview. If you have any kind of hardware store, they will probably have the right screw size for those. I would suggest giving yourself plenty of time to solder. That's really where the bulk of this project lies, is making all your connections, making sure that they're good connections. You want a solid connection there because you obviously want it to run, and you want it to, you want your power to operate the right way. And you can always just charge it with a mini USB right there. Just take a mini USB that'll charge the LiPo for you. And yeah, that's the project. So there you go.